The war had ended, but the silence it left behind was heavier than the bombs that once shook the streets of London. For 6 long years, Britain had been torn by nightly raids, air sirens, and the deafening sound of collapsing walls. Now, in the autumn of 1946, the smoke had cleared, but people were still learning how to breathe in peace. Samuel Wright, a young man of 28, walked through the ruins of East London with a cigarette dangling between his fingers. He had survived the war, though he often wondered if survival was a blessing or a curse. His father, a soldier, never returned from Dunkirk. His mother had passed during the Blitz, buried under bricks and dust when a German bomb tore their street apart. Samuel was left with scars no one could see, scars that followed him even in sleep. The city was rebuilding, brick by brick, yet a strange unease lingered. The war was supposed to be over, but whispers spread through pubs and street corners about soldiers who never returned, about documents the government buried, about experiments that went far beyond what the public knew. Samuel never believed in conspiracy, not until the night he met Evelyn. She was sitting at a small cafe near Whitechapel, her dark coat wrapped tightly as though she feared every eye upon her. Samuel noticed her immediately, not because she was beautiful, but because she looked terrified. When their eyes met, she quickly glanced away, her hands trembling around a cup of tea. Minutes later, she stood and slipped a folded paper beneath Samuel's ashtray. Without a word, she left. Curiosity clawed at him. He unfolded the paper, its edges damp with her nervous sweat. Inside was a single line, written in hurried strokes. A strung. The war never ended. Meet me at Tower Bridge, midnight. Samuel laughed nervously, but something inside him knew this wasn't a joke. That night, against his better judgment, he found himself walking towards Tower Bridge. The Thames reflected the yellow glow of gas lamps, rippling with the chill of early winter. Evelyn was already there, her figure outlined against the fog. She wasted no time. "You don't know me, but your father did," she whispered. Samuel froze. "My father? He died at Dunkirk." "That's what they told you." She looked around nervously. "But the truth is different. Your father was part of something secret. Something the government hid even from its own men." Samuel wanted to walk away, but her trembling voice held him in place. Evelyn explained that in the final years of the war, certain British scientists and military officers began experiments. Experiments that weren't just about weapons, but about time, memory, and control. They wanted to end the war quickly, she said, but instead they opened something they couldn't close. Her words made no sense, yet the conviction in her eyes made his skin crawl. Before he could question further, a black car rolled slowly onto the bridge. Its headlights sliced through the fog. Evelyn's face went pale. "They found us," she whispered. The next moments blurred. The car doors slammed open, and 2 men in dark coats stepped out. Evelyn grabbed Samuel's hand and ran. Their footsteps echoed on the cobblestones as the men shouted behind them. Samuel had never run so fast, but fear fueled his legs. They darted into narrow alleys, the car's engine growling like a beast hunting its prey. Finally, they slipped into an abandoned warehouse near the river. Evelyn pressed her back against the wall, gasping for breath. Samuel's heart pounded in his chest, each beat louder than the last. "You need to decide right now," she said, gripping his arm. "Do you want to know the truth, or do you want to go back to your empty life pretending the war is over?" Samuel stared at her. He should have walked away, but something about her voice, about the mistral surrounding his father, kept him rooted. "I want the truth," he said finally. Her eyes softened, but her words only deepened the storm inside him. "Then you have to understand. The war didn't end in 1945. The fighting only moved somewhere else. Somewhere we're not supposed to see." The warehouse creaked with the weight of silence. Outside, the car's engine cut off, and footsteps echoed closer. Evelyn's hand tightened around Samuel's. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. And before Samuel could speak, the warehouse door burst open. The warehouse door cracked open with a violent thud, and dust fell from the beams above. Samuel froze, his breath caught in his throat. Two men in long black coats stepped inside, their silhouettes sharp against the pale moonlight filtering through the broken windows. Their boots echoed on the concrete floor, slow and deliberate, like predators savoring the chase. Evelyn tugged Samuel's arm, pulling him deeper into the shadows. They moved between rusted machinery and piles of broken crates, their footsteps drowned by the groaning river pipes that ran along the walls. Samuel's heart hammered so loudly he feared it would betray them. "Spread out," one of the men ordered, his voice calm but chilling. They couldn't have gone far. Samuel and Evelyn crouched behind a stack of crates. The smell of damp wood and oil stung his nostrils. He tried to steady his breathing, but every inhale felt like a thunderclap in the silence. The second man walked closer, his flashlight sweeping across the floor. Evelyn leaned close to Samuel's ear. "Whatever happens, don't let them take you. Promise me." Samuel wanted to ask why, but her eyes, wild and desperate, told him it wasn't the time. The flashlight beam slid past them, missing by inches. Samuel felt sweat bead on his forehead. The man hesitated, as if sensing something, but then moved on. For a brief moment, Samuel thought they might escape. But just as Evelyn rose to move, her foot brushed against a loose bottle. It clinked against the floor. The sound cut through the air like a gunshot. "There!" the man shouted. In a heartbeat, Samuel and Evelyn were sprinting again, weaving between crates as the men charged after them. One of the pursuers fired a shot. The bullet ricocheted off metal, sparks scattering in the dark. Samuel's chest burned as he ran, his lungs begging for air. They burst out through a side door and into the icy night. The Thames shimmered under the moon, its waters restless. Evelyn didn't stop. She pulled Samuel down the narrow docks, past broken fishing boats and silent warehouses. Behind them, the black-coated men gave chase, their footsteps relentless. Finally, Evelyn skidded to a halt near a rusted ladder leading down to a half-sunken boat. She pushed Samuel toward it. "Go," she shouted. "Are you insane? That thing won't float." "It doesn't need to float," she snapped. "Just trust me." Against every instinct, Samuel climbed down. Evelyn followed, and together they stumbled onto the creaking deck. Evelyn reached under a tarp and pulled away layers of cloth until she revealed something strange. A wooden crate sealed with heavy iron locks. Symbols were carved into its surface, symbols Samuel didn't recognize. "What the hell is that?" he whispered. Evelyn's hands trembled as she opened a hidden compartment and pulled out a key. "This is what they're hunting. This is what your father died for." The men appeared at the top of the dock. "Stop where you are," one of them barked. Evelyn shoved the key into Samuel's hands. "Open it." Samuel hesitated, but the urgency in her eyes left no room for argument. He unlocked the crate, and as the lid creaked open, a cold wind swept across the river, unnatural and sharp. Inside was a metal cylinder, about the size of a lantern, but glowing faintly with blue light. The air around it seemed to hum, like a low vibration only half heard. "What is this?" Samuel asked, his voice shaking. "It's called the Meridian device," Evelyn said. "Your father was part of the team that built it. It's not a weapon. It's something far worse." The men were getting closer, guns drawn. Samuel instinctively reached for the device, but the moment his fingers touched its cold surface, a wave of visions crashed into his mind. He saw skies ripped open by fire, soldiers vanishing into thin air, cities swallowed by darkness, not of bombs, but of time itself folding in strange directions. He saw his father, alive, standing on a battlefield that was not World War II, but something far beyond it, and then the vision was gone, leaving Samuel gasping. "What did you see?" Evelyn demanded. "My father. "He's alive," Samuel whispered. Evelyn's eyes widened. "Then it's true. The war didn't end. It was moved, and he's still fighting it." Before Samuel could ask more, the men fired again, bullets splintering the wood around them. Evelyn grabbed the device and shoved it into a satchel. She pulled Samuel toward the edge of the boat. "We can't fight them." "Not here." "What's the plan then?" She looked at him with a grim smile. "We disappear, just like your father." And with that, she pressed a button on the device. The air shimmered, the river seemed to twist, and the world around Samuel bent, as though reality itself were tearing apart. He felt his body being pulled, weightless, into a void of light and sound. The last thing he heard was the furious shouts of the men behind them, fading into silence. Then there was nothing. When Samuel opened his eyes again, he was no longer in London. The city, the river, the night, all of it was gone. He was standing in a barren wasteland, the sky a bruised shade of crimson, the air thick with the scent of ash. In the distance, ruined structures jutted out of the ground like bones of some dead giant. Evelyn stood beside him, her face pale. "Welcome to the other side of the war," she said quietly. Samuel's throat went dry. "Where the hell are we?" And she turned to him slowly. "We're not in 1946 anymore." The crimson sky pulsed as if it were alive, and Samuel felt the weight of this strange world pressed down on him. His legs trembled, but Evelyn steadied him. "This isn't Earth as you know it," she said, her voice low. "It's a fracture, a broken piece of reality. The Meridian device doesn't just move people through space. It tears open paths through time." Samuel blinked, trying to process her words. His father's face from the vision still burned in his memory. Alive, fighting, somewhere beyond the horizon of this ruined place. "Why would anyone build something like this?" he asked. Evelyn hesitated. "Your father believed it could end wars before they began. But others saw it as a way to control history itself." The wasteland stretched endlessly. Ash crunched beneath their boots, and the air shimmered with faint distortions, like ripples in water. Samuel noticed shapes moving in the distance, silhouettes that didn't look entirely human. He grabbed Evelyn's arm. "We're not alone." She followed his gaze, her expression tightening. "Keep walking. Don't stare at them. If you acknowledge them, they'll acknowledge you." Samuel swallowed hard, but obeyed. The figures drifted at the edge of his vision, their movements jerky, as though pieces of their bodies belonged to different times. His skin crawled. After what felt like hours, they came upon a shattered archway of stone. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its surface, the same symbols Samuel had seen on the crate. Evelyn touched the stone gently. "This is a gate. Your father used one of these." "Where does it lead?" Samuel asked. She looked at him. "To the battlefield where the true war never ended." A sudden scream tore through the air behind them. Samuel spun around to see the black-coated men impossibly stepping out of the same shimmering void they had used. Their faces were twisted with fury. "They followed us!" Samuel shouted. Evelyn pulled the device from her satchel. "Then we run again, but this time we run forward." She pressed the mechanism, and the archway flared with blinding light. The fabric of reality peeled open, revealing a glimpse of another world. Trenches carved into burning ground. Soldiers in uniform Samuel didn't recognize, weapons crackling with energy unlike anything from 1946. The men fired as Evelyn shoved Samuel through the portal. Bullets whizzed past his head as the world spun violently once again. He landed hard in mud, the stench of gunpowder choking him. Shouts and explosions echoed all around. He scrambled up, only to freeze at the sight before him. Thousands of soldiers stretched across a battlefield, scarred by fire. Some wore the faded green of World War II uniforms. Others wore strange armor that seemed too advanced for any army Samuel knew. And among them, colossal machines stalked the ground. walking steel giants powered by something glowing in their cores. Samuel's blood ran cold. This can't be real, he whispered. But then he saw him, amid the chaos, standing atop a ridge, barking orders with the same commanding tone Samuel remembered from childhood. His father. Father! Samuel screamed. His voice was lost in the roar of battle. Evelyn pulled him down as a blast tore through the trench, throwing dirt and fire into the air. "Do you see now?" she shouted. "This war never ended. It just shifted here, and your father is trapped, leading men who should have been home decades ago." Samuel's chest ached. He wanted to run to him, to drag him back, but the black-coated pursuers had emerged through the portal behind them. They moved like predators, immune to fear. Evelyn gritted her teeth. They want the device because with it, they won't just fight this war. They'll rewrite the entire history of mankind. Samuel clutched the satchel, realization striking him like lightning. The visions, the soldiers, the strange machines, everything connected to this cursed invention. And his father might be the key to stopping it. As artillery thundered overhead, Samuel knew one thing for certain. He hadn't just stumbled into a mystery. He had been dragged into a war that was never meant to exist. And for the first time, he felt the terrible weight of his destiny pressing down on him. The battlefield trembled under the weight of endless fire. Samuel's ears rang with the shriek of shells, the deep thud of explosions, and the screams of men who should have been nothing more than fading names in history books. "If they find us in the open, we won't last 10 seconds. Samuel's gaze drifted back to the ridge where he had seen his father. Even through the smoke and fire, he could almost trace the familiar outline of the man, straight-backed, commanding, fearless. His throat tightened. "That's him," Samuel said, his voice trembling. "I have to reach him." Evelyn yanked him down as a bolt of searing blue energy scorched the ground inches from his head. "Not yet. You don't even understand what side he's on. You don't understand what he's become." Her words cut deep. Samuel stared at her, searching her face for some hint of reassurance. Instead, he saw only exhaustion, fear, and grim determination. The black-coated men had fanned out along the trench line, their movements inhumanly precise. They didn't stumble in the mud, didn't flinch from the explosions. They advanced steadily, as though time itself bent to make way for them. Samuel clutched the satchel tighter. He wanted to run, but his legs felt like lead. "Why are they following me? Why not just take the device and leave?" "Because," Evelyn said, leaning close to his ear, "you're the only one who can open it completely. It's bound to your bloodline, to your father's." The words sank in slowly, dread curling inside Samuel's chest. "You're saying I'm the key?" Before Evelyn could answer, a nearby trench collapsed under the impact of artillery. The ground split, sending mud, nen, and twisted metal tumbling into the abyss. Samuel and Evelyn clung to the edge, their bodies dangling above the yawning pit. Samuel's fingers slipped, but Evelyn grabbed his wrist. "Don't let go," she screamed. Through the smoke below, Samuel caught sight of something horrifying. Soldiers who had fallen into the pit weren't dying. They were suspended, frozen in fragments of time, one mid-screen, another mid-strike, their bodies flickering between life and death. He tore his gaze away, heart hammering. Evelyn pulled him back up with a strength that didn't match her thin frame. "Listen to me," she said, panting. "Your father started this war by trying to stop it. If the Blackcoats get to him before we do, they'll force him to finish it." A whistling sound cut her words short. Samuel turned instinctively and froze. A massive machine towered above the trench, its metal legs crashing into the earth like falling trees. Its chest glowed with the same eerie energy as the device. Its head, shaped like a helmet, scanned the battlefield with a beam of blinding white light. Soldiers scattered in terror, but none escaped. When the beam struck them, their bodies warped, vanishing into thin air as though erased from existence. Samuel fell to his knees. What are these things?" "Remnants," Evelyn whispered. "Constructs born from the device's power. They shouldn't exist. But this world feeds on contradictions. The longer this war drags on, the more of them appear. The machine's beams swept closer. Evelyn shoved Samuel against the trench wall, pressing her body over his to shield him. The light seared the mud inches away, leaving behind a smoking crater. Samuel's pulse thundered in his ears. "We'll never survive this." Evelyn's eyes met his. "We will, because you're not here to die, Samuel. You're here to decide." Before he could respond, a commanding voice rose above the chaos, a voice Samuel knew as well as his own heartbeat. "Hold the line! Push them back!" His father! Samuel's breath caught in his throat. He couldn't stop himself. He scrambled up the trench wall, ignoring Evelyn's desperate cries. Through smoke and blood, he saw the man clearly now. His father stood with a weapon unlike anything Samuel had ever seen, its barrel glowing with unstable light. Soldiers obeyed his every order, their faith unshaken despite the nightmare around them. Samuel's heart swelled. He wanted to call out, to bridge the years between them. But before he could, the black-coated men appeared at the ridge, their leader raising a hand toward Samuel's father. The air shimmered. Time slowed. Samuel felt his own body lock in place, as though invisible chains bound him. Only his eyes could move, darting frantically. The leader's voice cut through the silence, low and venomous. "The bloodline is reunited. The war ends tonight." Samuel's father turned, his face etched with shock. As his eyes fell on Samuel, recognition, disbelief, hope. And then, in a voice raw with emotion, he spoke a single word. "Son." The battlefield dissolved into chaos once more. Samuel's knees almost gave way when the word cut across the battlefield. Son. He had dreamed of this moment in countless ways. His father returning home, a reunion on some quiet street, not here, not in this endless nightmare of blood and steel. The word was both a blessing and a wound, because it meant his father remembered. And if he remembered, then he had chosen to fight here instead of coming back. The black-coated leader tilted his head slightly, as if amused. His hand still hovered in the air, holding the threads of time like strings of a puppet show. Around them, the world flickered, soldiers frozen mid-step, explosions stuttering in slow motion, mud suspended like shards of glass in midair. Only Samuel, his father, and the blackcoats seemed able to move freely. Evelyn stumbled beside Samuel, clutching her chest, her face pale from resisting the distortion. "Samuel," she gasped, "don't trust the moment." It's been bent to their will. Samuel's father ignored her, his eyes locked on his son. There was no mistaking the raw ache in his expression. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Not in this war, not in this time." Samuel tried to speak, but his throat tightened. The years of silence between them pressed heavy on his chest. He finally forced out the words. "Why? Why did you leave us?" The black-coated leader's laugh broke through, low and jagged. "Because he never belonged to your world. He belonged to ours." Samuel's father's jaw clenched. "That's a lie. I chose my family. I chose peace. But the device." He trailed off, his weapon lowering slightly as if the weight of memory was dragging it down. "The device didn't let me go." Evelyn staggered forward. "Samuel, listen to me. He's bound to it. That's why the remnants keep spawning, why the war keeps resetting. Every decision he made is locked in the cycle. And now you're part of it." Samuel's chest burned. "You're saying I'm trapped too?" The leader's smile widened. His eyes glowed faintly beneath the brim of his hat. "Not trapped, chosen. The device calls to bloodlines strong enough to bear the fracture of realities. And in your veins, Samuel, runs the strongest bond of all. A father who broke history, and a son who will finish it." The words twisted inside Samuel like a knife. He felt Evelyn grab his arm, pulling him back as the leader extended his hand. "Come with me," the man whispered, "and I'll show you the truth behind all worlds." Samuel's father stepped between them, weapon raised. His voice thundered, sharp and unyielding. "You'll have to go through me first." The leader didn't flinch. Gladly. With a flick of his wrist, time snapped forward. Explosions resumed, the battlefield roaring to life. The remnant machine screeched, sweeping its beam across the trench line. Soldiers screamed as they vanished in flashes of white. Samuel's father opened fire. His weapon spat arcs of unstable energy that tore through the black-coated men. Each shot bent the air, ripping holes in the fabric of the battlefield. Samuel shielded his eyes from the blinding light, every pulse shaking his bones. Evelyn pulled him down into the mud. "We can't stay here. The more they fight, the worse the fracture gets." Samuel looked up at his father, his heart pounding with conflicting emotions. He wanted to help him, to fight beside him, but the satchel at his side throbbed with strange heat, as if the device inside knew its time was near. Evelyn shook him. "Samuel, listen. If they destroy each other, the cycle resets again. Everyone dies again. That's what the war is, a wound replaying itself. The only way to end it is for you to choose." "Choose what?" he demanded. Her answer was a whisper, nearly drowned by the roar of the battlefield. "Choose which side you stand on, your father's or theirs." The words struck harder than any explosion. Samuel stared at his father, who fought like a storm, every shot buying another second for the soldiers around him. But in the chaos, Samuel saw it clearly. Every time his father pulled the trigger, the world cracked a little more. The leader raised his hand, and the remnant machine shrieked, releasing a surge of energy. Samuel's father staggered under the force, his weapon flickering as though resisting him. Samuel couldn't breathe. His chest felt crushed under the weight of expectation. My bloodline, my choice, my war. Then, through the haze, his father's voice cut to him again. Not an order, not a command, just a plea. "Don't let them take you!" Evelyn screamed at the same time. "Samuel, open the satchel! End it now before it's too late!" His fingers hovered over the clasp. The satchel pulsed, humming with a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. The battlefield around him blurred, as if the device itself was eager to be freed. His mind fractured under the weight of the decision. Every part of him wanted to trust his father, to believe that after all the pain and absence, he could still stand beside him. But Evelyn's desperate eyes and the way the world itself bent with each passing second told him the truth. His father might not be saving the world anymore. He might only be holding it hostage. Samuel's breath came fast and shallow. The device called to him. The war demanded his choice. And then, the satchel burst open. Light erupted, swallowing the battlefield whole. The light that erupted from the satchel was unlike anything Samuel had ever seen. It wasn't just brightness, it was memory, sound, touch, and grief all at once. He could feel childhood laughter echoing through the glare, hear his mother's lullabies blending with the screams of dying soldiers, smell the earth after rain mixed with gunpowder and fire. The battlefield froze again. But this time, it wasn't because the black-coated leader had twisted time. This was something purer, deeper. The device had claimed its stage. Samuel stood at the center of it, his hands trembling as the light wrapped around him. Evelyn's voice was distant, muffled, as though she were shouting from the other side of an ocean. "Control it! Don't let it drown you!" He tried, but the flood of vision surged faster. Faces, soldiers, children, strangers, flashed before him. Wars long gone and wars yet to come played out like shadows across the sky. And at the center of it all, he saw his father. Younger, older, fighting, breaking, vanishing. 1,000 versions of the man, each caught in an endless loop. Then one vision struck harder than the rest. His father, standing on a cliff of glass, holding the device before the black-coated leader. His face was lined with exhaustion, his eyes hollow, and his voice whispered the same words over and over. "I chose wrong." Samuel gasped, the light searing into his chest. "What does this mean?" The device pulsed an answer, almost alive. And then the battlefield shifted. The mud, the trenches, the remnant machine, all of it peeled away like pages from a book. Samuel stumbled, blinking, and found himself standing in a vast hall made of fractured mirrors. Each wall reflected a different world, one where the war had never begun, one where the black coats ruled openly, one where his father never left. Evelyn appeared beside him, her outline flickering as though she were half real. "This is the archive," she whispered. "The device's heart. It stores every possibility, every path that could be taken. Only its chosen bearer can decide which one becomes real." Samuel's throat tightened. "You mean me?" Before she could answer, footsteps echoed across the mirrored floor. The black-coated leer emerged from the shadows, his smile sharper than ever. Behind him, Samuel's father appeared too, his weapon still in hand, but his expression twisted with anguish. The leader spread his arms. "Do you see now, Samuel? This is the truth. All realities at your fingertips. The war outside is nothing but a reflection of this place. Choose to stand with me, and you will wield it all. You won't just end a war. You'll reshape existence itself." Samuel's father stepped forward, his voice hoarse. "Don't listen. Power like this doesn't save anyone, it destroys. I tried. I thought I could control it, but every choice I made only carved another scar into the world. That's why I stayed away, to keep you safe from this." Samuel's hands clenched. His whole body trembled with the weight of their words. "Then why am I here? Why me?" Evelyn's voice cracked. "Because your blood carries the echo of his choices. You're the only one who can rewrite them, but you must choose carefully. One path locks you in a cycle, the other may set us free." The leader's laugh echoed, cold and resonant. "Freedom is an illusion. There will always be war, always suffering. But with me, you can direct it, channel it, make it serve you. Think of the lives you could command, the empires you could build." Samuel's father raised his weapon, his eyes pleading. "Or you can walk away, destroy the device before it consumes you like it consumed me. It's the only way to end this nightmare." Samuel felt torn in two. The mirrors around him rippled with possibilities, each one more tempting or terrifying than the last. In one, he saw himself ruling beside the black coats, untouchable. In another, he saw himself walking away with Evelyn, leaving the war behind, but the world burning without him. In yet another, he saw his father kneeling, broken, while Samuel raised the device in triumph. His voice cracked under the weight of the decision. "If I destroy it, what happens to all of this?" Evelyn stepped closer. "Everything resets one last time, but without the device anchoring it, the cycle ends. No more rewinds, no more endless war, just one reality, whatever remains standing." The leader's eyes glowed brighter. "And if you choose me, you won't just end the cycle, you'll control it. You'll be the master of every reality. Your father failed because he was weak. But you have the strength to succeed." Samuel's father dropped his weapon, desperation in his voice. "Please, son, don't repeat my mistakes. I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you never forgive me. Just don't let them take you." Samuel's chest ached. His father's words cut deeper than any blade. "I don't care if you never forgive me." The device pulsed again, waiting for his answer. For one brief second, Samuel closed his eyes and wished he were anywhere else. Back home. Back in the quiet life he'd once had. But the archive didn't allow dreams. It only demanded choices. His hand rose, trembling, hovering over the glowing core of the device. He could feel Evelyn's gaze on him, his father's silent plea, the leader's hungry smile. The mirrors around him shuddered, each reflection straining to break free. Worlds collapsed, collided, screamed for release. Samuel whispered, barely audible, "I choose." The archive shattered. Light exploded outward, devouring everything. The blast of light hurled Samuel backward, and when his eyes adjusted, the mirrored archive was gone. He was lying on a barren plain, under a sky split with fractures of color. The ground cracked like broken glass, glowing from beneath as though molten time itself pulsed beneath his feet. He staggered up. Evelyn was beside him again, solid this time, not flickering. Her face was pale, but determined. "It didn't end," she murmured. "The archive collapsed into the fracture. This is what remains when choices are undecided. Samuel gripped the device against his chest. It was burning hot now, its core vibrating like a trapped heart. "I didn't choose." "You did," Evelyn said quietly. "You chose to hesitate. And now the device has forced everything into this limbo. One final decision has to be made here." Before he could answer, shadows twisted from the horizon. The black-coated leader emerged, his cloak trailing smoke, his smile sharper than ever. Behind him stood soldiers who looked like broken statues, their faces featureless, their bodies carved from stone and fire. And then Samuel's father appeared again, crawling from a fissure in the ground, battered and bruised. His weapon was gone, but his eyes still burned with a fierce resolve. The leader raised his hand, his voice booming across the fractured sky. "This is the threshold, the end of all cycles. There are no more mirrors to hide behind. No more rewinds. Here, Samuel, you must finally decide. Will you join me or destroy everything?" Evelyn's grip tightened on his arm. "Don't listen. We can still end it the right way. If you channel the device into the fracture, the loop breaks, permanently." His father coughed, blood staining his lips. "She's right. But the cost will be everything you know. Every version of me, every reality tied to this device. Even me standing here, talking to you now. I'll vanish." Samuel's breath caught. "You'll die?" "Not die," his father whispered. "I'll cease, as though I was never born. You'll still exist, but without me." The leader's voice sliced through the air. "Or choose me, Samuel. With me, your father lives. The war bends, and you'll never be powerless again. You'll command reality itself." The ground shook violently. Fissures split open, spitting fire. In the distance, entire landscapes folded in on themselves. Mountains imploding, rivers reversing, cities collapsing in silence. The fracture was unraveling everything. Samuel fell to his knees, clutching the device. His thoughts screamed. Evelyn's hand was warm on his shoulder. His father's desperate eyes pleaded. The leader's voice tempted with promises. "Why me?" he thought. "Why was I chosen?" The device pulsed, as if answering. "Because only the lost can decide what must be found." Samuel squeezed his eyes shut. "I don't want to lose you," he whispered to his father. His father's face softened for the first time. "Son, you already did. Long ago. I was gone the moment I touched this cursed thing. All that's left is a shadow. Don't chain yourself to my mistake." Tears stung Samuel's eyes. He wanted to scream, to throw the device away, to demand another path. But there was no other path. The fracture was tearing apart everything. The leader strode closer, his cloak whipping in the chaos. "Enough! Make your choice, boy. With me, you'll have everything. Power, freedom, even the return of all you've lost. Without me, you'll have nothing but ashes." Evelyn shouted back, her voice breaking. "Power isn't freedom. It's a cage, Samuel. Don't give in." The device's glow reached a peak, its light cracking through his fingers. The air burned. The world screamed. And Samuel finally understood. It was never about power or control or even freedom. It was about ending the endless war, about giving reality back its right to exist without being rewritten. He rose, tears on his cheeks, and looked at his father. "I love you, but I can't keep you. Not like this." His father's lips trembled, but he nodded slowly. "Thank you, son." Samuel turned to Evelyn. "If I channel it, what happens to us?" She hesitated. "I don't know. Maybe we survive. Maybe we don't. But if we succeed, the cycle ends. That's all that matters." The leader snarled, his voice venomous. "Fool, do you think you can defy me? You're nothing without me." Samuel gripped the device with both hands, lifted it toward the sky, and screamed. The core split open, light blasting upward like a pillar piercing the heavens. The fracture howled, ripping wider, pulling at everything. The leader, his stone soldiers, even Evelyn and his father. The leader lunged, but the light tore him apart, shredding his form into streams of shadow. His scream echoed like 1,000 dying worlds before it faded into nothing. Samuel's father staggered, his body dissolving into motes of light. He smiled faintly, pride in his fading eyes. "You did what I couldn't. I'm proud of you." And then he was gone. Evelyn screamed as the light swallowed her too, her figure stretching and vanishing. Samuel tried to hold onto her hand, but his fingers closed on air. Alone, Samuel stood at the center of the storm, the device melting into pure light in his hands. He braced himself as the fracture consumed everything. The world shattered. And then, silence. Darkness. Samuel opened his eyes. He was standing in a quiet field, the sky clear, the grass swaying gently in the wind. No war, no machines, no black coats, no father. Only peace. The device was gone. Samuel fell to his knees, the weight of loss crushing him. But beneath it all, a fragile relief bloomed. The cycle had ended. For the first time in forever, the world was real. And yet, deep within him, he felt a flicker, like an echo of Evelyn's voice. Soft, almost like a promise. "You're not alone." Samuel lifted his head to the horizon, the wind brushing his face. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, it was his to live. The ocean was darker than anything James had ever seen. As the submarine drifted downward into the abyss, the crew sat in silence, every beep of the sonar echoing like a heartbeat in their chests. They were below the Bermuda Triangle, at a depth no one had dared to reach before. "Pressure's stable," Maria whispered, her voice trembling. "But the readings, they don't make sense." On the monitors, strange pulses of light flickered. Shapes, like symbols, moved across the screen. They weren't random. They looked like language. James leaned forward. "It's communication." Suddenly, the lights outside the submarine grew brighter. Everyone's breath caught as a colossal structure emerged from the black void. A city, impossibly ancient, with towers that seemed carved from crystal, glowing faintly in blue and violet. It looked alive. This is Atlantis," Maria gasped. The crew stared, frozen in awe. But then the city pulsed, as if aware of their presence. A low hum filled the submarine, vibrating in their bones. The symbols on the screen aligned into words. "Leave." The warning was clear. But James, driven by years of obsession, shook his head. "No, not yet. We found it. The truth the world has hunted for centuries." The hum intensified. One by one, systems inside the submarine began to fail. Lights flickered, alarms screamed. It wasn't pressure. It wasn't mechanical. Something was interfering. Something intelligent. "James," Maria cried, "if we don't turn back now, we'll never make it out alive." But James couldn't stop. His hands trembled as he reached for the external camera controls. The lens zoomed in on the city gates, where enormous figures were moving. Not machines, not fish, but beings. Tall, shimmering entities of light and shadow, with faces that shifted like water. The crew gasped. These were not human. Suddenly, one of the beings raised its hand. A blinding surge of energy struck the submarine. Everything went white. When James opened his eyes, he was lying on a stone floor. Around him stretched vast halls of crystal and gold. The crew was gone. He was alone. "Welcome, Seeker." The voice was inside his head. He turned. One of the glowing beings stood before him, its form fluid and unreal. James's mouth went dry. "Who? Who are you?" "We are the keepers. We guard the passage." "Passage?" The being's form rippled, and suddenly, James saw visions flooding his mind. Ships disappearing, planes swallowed mid-flight, sailors vanishing into thin air. Not destroyed, taken. The Bermuda Triangle wasn't a graveyard. It was a doorway. "To where?" James whispered. The being's eyes flared with impossible light. "Strong, to everywhere." Visions cascaded faster, glimpses of other worlds, skies with two suns, oceans of fire, cities of beings beyond comprehension. Every soul lost in the triangle had not died, they had crossed over. "Why me?" James asked, trembling. "Because you asked the question no one dares to ask. You wanted truth more than life." The being extended its hand. "You may stay and see, but if you leave, you will forget." James's heart thundered. Stay and step into realms no human had ever witnessed, or return and lose it all. He took a breath. I want to know." The being's light engulfed him, and then silence. Months later, the submarine was found adrift near the Bahamas, empty. The world declared the crew dead, another tragedy of the triangle. Their story became just another rumor, another unsolved mystery. But deep in the ocean, in the city no human will ever map, James walks among the keepers, not as a prisoner, but as a witness to the truths our world was never meant to hold. And sometimes, when storms brew over the Bermuda waters, sailors swear they hear a voice in the wind, whispering, warning them away. James's voice. "Leave."